All right, we are live on Facebook. Good evening, Nigeria. Good evening, everyone. I believe that you have had a beautiful Saturday, a beautiful weekend at that. And this weekend came with the independence celebration we started yesterday. Uh, this is the third in the series of our broadcasts on setting a hope agenda for Nigeria. And we had the first broadcast on Tuesday, 2 days before independence. We had the second broadcast on Independence Day, and this is the third in the series, and it is a conversation on how to set a hope agenda for Nigeria. And so we are starting out here. The truth is, yesterday Nigeria marked her 61st independence anniversary as a nation. This country was bettered with a lot of promises. We had a vibrant, intellectually suave, and nationalistic founding fathers who were visionaries and were passionate about the new nation made up of various ethnic nationalities. Even at that early stage, we had our fault lines of religious and regional inclinations. But the different regions were federating units which were developing at their own pace. The center was not an all powerful center. It wasn't a federal government that is muzzling the development of the federating unit as we see today. We had development at the different regions with commensurate capacities of the people, and this healthy competition existed between the different federating units. Then suddenly the five majors struck. The truth is, there was a counter coup as well in 1966. What ensued was a 30-month civil war, which claimed over 3 million souls. Now, besides the effect of the 1966 fracture is still with us today. Besides the animosity, which continues to exist between the ethnic nationalities over 50 years after the end of the war, our federal system has been bastardized, emanating from the unitary system of government, which has not helped our development in any case. This unitary system was a product of the military itself. Our economy has continued to nosedive as the competitive spirit which existed before 1966 has been replaced by an allocation hungry federal unit called states, which go cap in hand to Abuja monthly to receive federal allocations of revenues collected from across the country, with some states getting more allocation than the originating states where the revenues were generated. On the basis of the number of local governments and the population of their people, even though their contribution to the center is so minimal. Our politics have gone to the abyss as policies are now set and not up to date, and the rest of the world has virtually left us behind. From one administration to the other, we stumbled and wobbled. Every new administration came with a fresh promise, and the people jubilated only to become worse than the one before it. It came with then came civil rule in 1999, after many years of military interruptions. 22 years into democratic rule, Nigeria appears to be worse than ever. But in the midst of all of this, we cannot afford to lose hope. We cannot have an alternate nation. We are surrounded by weak nations as neighbors, and the entire West Coast will unravel if we disintegrate. This is one of the many reasons, apart from the fact that there is a future in our children, why we must inspire hope. This series of discussions, which started here on Government TV last Tuesday, as we mark 61 years as a country, is meant to set a hope agenda. using our crack team of facilitators. It is against this backdrop that we hold this third discussion today. Our discussants tonight are the Honorable Reverend Dave Ogbole. He is the Principal Special Assistant to the Governor of Benue State on Strategic Investment and Knowledge Economy. He is also the Senior Pastor of True Life Impact Church, Makurdi, Nigeria. Reverend Dave is joining us from Makurdi in Benue State. But it does appear as if we're having a network challenge with his connection. So we will have him on momentarily. Our second guest is Dr. Emmanuel Oamen. He's a head post-training empowerment unit of a presidential amnesty program. He is also the lead pastor City Church, where he is building a takeover generation. Dr. Oamen, you're welcome to Governor TV.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obuche, and good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure.
Okay, I had just introduced and he's here with us. Reverend Dave, like I said, is the Principal Special Assistant to the Benue State Governor on Strategic Investment and Knowledge Economy. He's also the Senior Pastor of a True Life Impact Church, Makurdi, Nigeria. The Honorable Dave, you're welcome to Governor TV once again.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you again. And with that, gentleman of the clergy there, I appreciate you. It's an honor. Thank you, sir.
All right. We'll get to familiarize with ourselves as we go on. But the thematic areas we're looking at this evening is governance, the economy, health, and education. And so I'd like to start with the Honorable Reverend Dave Ogbole. What has been the role of governance in Nigeria since 1999? We're going back to 1960 anyway. And how has it impacted on the development of our nation to date? Putting yourself in a leadership position, what can you do with the challenge of leadership we have today in Nigeria, looking forward into 20 years? Just imagine that you have 20 years to fix Nigeria. Tell us your leadership model and how Nigeria can exit from the current abyss.
Okay, I must begin by expressing my appreciation, profound appreciation for the opportunity to be here this evening, raising this conversation on the survival of our one and only nation, Nigeria, after 51 years of independence. I must say it's a delight. I don't know why all of us you are hosting on the show today, gentlemen of the clergy, but I believe there is one reason alone that can be responsible for that. Nigeria at this point is not in dire need of development per se. We are in need, first of all, of survival. We're in need of a rescue, as it is. And when it comes to rescue operations, you don't send the general army, you don't send the police, you send special forces. So I believe that it is the time where special forces are being deployed who have had trainings in various fields, some in the engineering, the legal field, and even people on the pulpit. Because anybody who has the requisite training or arsenals to rescue Nigeria now and is holding himself back or hiding behind the gap of religion or professionalism, I think that person is one of the major causes of the issues of Nigeria today. So I am so glad to be here with a gentleman of the clergy discussing this issue about Nigeria. When we talk about governance per se, we are talking about the systems and machineries that enables a nation to be able to harness and distribute her resources for the well-being of our people. Governance basically is predicated upon the leadership culture of any nation and the indices or the impact of this leadership culture on the general well-being of the people. That is how I define governance, the leadership culture and structure, and its impact on the variables of a nation. Variables like the economy, security, infrastructure. And when I talk about infrastructure, whether it's agri infrastructure, social infrastructure, health infrastructure, education infrastructure, or whatsoever. So those are the indices or yardstick that you use to judge governance. When you talk about the role of governance in Nigeria, from 1960, I think that's a period, a good period to, begin this discourse or interrogation from. A few days back, specifically 2 days back, Nigeria, marked her 51st independence. And so far, I can say Nigeria as a nation is not in lack of resources. We are one of the most blessed nations on the face of the earth. We are the 6th largest oil producing nation on the face of the earth. We became a member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, in 1970, specifically 1971. And from that time till now, we have been known as a major oil nation. And that's just one aspect of our economy. We have one of the most arable or largest arable lands in the world today, because 60% of arable lands on earth today are in Africa, and Nigeria accounts for a huge percentage of that arable land. So we don't lack resources at all. Our population of 206.1 million people is also another major asset that we can leverage on, because population now is no longer, a demerit or a disadvantage, because it provides, good market and also good labor for industries to be sited. For instance, China is 1.6 billion people on the face of the, in China today. And then it has provided a heaven for them to be able to serve as the industrial hub because of the cheap labor that they have, and also a very huge market for goods that are produced both within and outside. So we are not suffering for lack of resources at all, but we are suffering for epileptic leadership structures and culture, basically. So I must say, in a summary, from 1960 to date, what we have been experiencing is lack of state capacity to handle the complexities that are emerging, in our 51 years of independence or nationhood as a country. And I want to say here that the governance system or structure of any nation does not have emotion at all. It takes on the emotion or the peculiarities or the color of the drivers per time. So I can say that the Nigerian governance structure is puritanical in its nature. But the people who have driven or sat on the saddle, controlling the bits and the bridles of this nation so far, have been people of accidental leadership with not much content and capacity to be able to drive, the issues of this very, very great nation, the giant of Africa. You will notice that 6 years into independence, specifically 1966, we had our first Higi Haga as far as leadership matters are concerned. And that snowballed into a coup. From the coup, we had a civil war for 3 years. And after the civil war, military rule continued. And we had, 30 to 31 years of military rule in our 51 years of existence so far. And what you will notice about military rule is that anytime the military comes into power, the constitution, which is supposed to be the soul and the compass of a nation, is thrown aside. And then decrees and fiats are introduced, and people are forced to conform because of the punitive measures they wave on the face of people. That has not helped our governance structure to actually develop. It is a shame that at 51, the giant of Africa is figuratively wearing diapers and trying to crawl as far as her democracy and her governance structure, is concerned. So I must say that ours has been a case of accidental leadership. And no nation can make progress until it is the best of us leading the rest of us. The First Republic had very, very good people, but they didn't last. They were all wasted in that coup, our nationalists. The Second Republic opened up with the issues of people of lack of capacity stepping into the leadership, cockpit of Nigeria. Shehu Shagari was a grade 2 teacher. What? And you can never go beyond your capacity. If you give a man who has 1 million capacity a company of 100 million capacity to run, he will make choices and decisions that will reduce that 100 million, to his own level of 1 million. And a man who has 100 million capacity inside of him, if you give him a company of 1 million capacity, he will make choices and decisions that will grow the company to suit his own capacity. So basically, we are captives of our own capacity. And every nation is a captive of the capacity of her leaders. So Shehu Shagari, a grade 2 teacher, could not do much, for Nigeria. And that set a precedence of accidental leadership up until, the current leadership in Nigeria is still accidental. There is gross demonstration of lack of capacity, and lack of understanding of the complexities of Nigeria and the political will to be able to tackle the issues that bedevil us today. Going to the second aspect of your question quickly, I would say going forward, if I was to be in the saddle of leadership, which I am now in my own little way, John Maxwell said you must not be in the positional leadership before you can create influence or you can be able to drive change. Everybody, I believe, in his own corner should begin to, see himself as a leader that can contribute meaningfully. And it is these trickles of contribution all around that can snowball into overall development of our nation, Nigeria. So for me, my leadership model will be to give attention to 5 basic areas that I will develop deliberately, consciously develop. Number 1 is a national vision. We must first of all have a national vision. Who are we as a nation and where are we going to? Where do we see ourselves? And when such national vision or ethos, is articulated and circulated, and everybody is able to key into it, then we can work in unison or in unity into the Nigeria of our dream. But as it is right now, we don't have a Nigerian dream in terms of a national vision or philosophy. You hear of the American dream, the pursuit of liberty and the blessings of life within that context of democracy. That's the American dream. But there is no Nigerian dream per se. So that's the first thing I will pursue, is to have a national vision, a Nigerian dream that everybody will have to drink into. Number 2, I will consciously develop a new...
Reverend Dave.
Hello?
Reverend Dave, can you hold your thought there?
Okay.
Just hold your thought there. I don't want to break the thought, but just hold it there. I want to go over to Dr. Owamen in Abuja and ask him, what do you think has been responsible for our poor leadership turnover in Nigeria? As a president, for instance, in 8 years, to run this country, what are the specific immediate, medium, and long-term things you will begin to do to ensure that we become a better country through that purposeful leadership that you provide? Background from the historical point, and he was about to articulate, what he would do, what he would he believes in the leader of today should begin to do to lay out a recovery path for us. I like for you to start from there. We'll come back to his 5-point agenda, as it were, the 5-point agenda for President Dave Ugbele. All right, so Dr. Owamen, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oguchi. I thank you, man of God, for your very clear-cut, breakdown of the issues that we have, had to handle over the years. And quickly, I think a major issue is bordered upon leadership, and the leadership is more of being able to pick the right leaders. Leadership is more of who you are than what you can do. The crux of the matter when it comes to leadership is more of the character of our leaders. Most times maybe based on the leadership style of the style of picking leaders. Um, I don't know how well democracy has helped us, in this part of the world. I think to a large extent, we need to look, we need to be truthful to ourselves and look inward and discover, the uniqueness of our issues and utilize ways that will, solve our unique problems and being able to pick the right character of leadership to run. For example, we have peculiar issues. We're a very diverse nation, diverse cultures. We have this complexity of, diverse ethnos. So we need leaders that truly have one basic characteristic of our leadership we need is people that possess love, for example. You must be able to have a holistic approach on the diverse natures and cultures that we have in the nation. If you have a tribalistic leader, for example, he cannot meet up, he can't solve the problems of the land. We need people that have genuine love for the people of Nigeria, for the nation of Nigeria, for the togetherness of Nigeria. I think that's key. And besides that, we also need people that have, vision, who can see hope, like we're talking about, setting up the hope agenda, who have hope in their hearts. Most of our leaders more or less giving up on the Nigerian state. Honestly, truthfully, a lot of them don't believe in Nigeria. So all they see is an opportunity to grab whatever they can while it's in their purview. But we need people that genuinely have a vision for Nigeria, people that love the nation as a united, entity. I think those are some of the key things that we're lacking in our leadership. So we need to,
Okay.
work on those choices much more.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Oamen. I'll go back to Makodi, where Dr. Dave, Reverend Dave is. I asked him to hold his breath on the 5-point agenda. He had already started to talk about the first one, which is vision orientation, a national vision, as it were, that we do not have one right now. In the next 5 minutes, sir, can you articulate these 5 key issues that you would want us to focus on going forward?
Okay. I began with the conscious development of a national vision or a Nigerian dream, because until you know where you are going to, you won't know the resources that you need to deploy to be able to get there. Then the second thing I will consciously do is to develop a new leadership culture, a leadership culture that is based on content and capacity, a leadership culture that emphasizes not where you come from, but who you are and the value that you can offer. That's the leadership culture that I will begin to consciously develop, such that if the person that is competent is from the north or the south, the east or the west or whatsoever, wherever he comes from, it's not the where, it is the who. We'll be able to go for that to get the job done. Then number 3, I will give attention to developing a template for leadership development. That is one thing that is very, very lacking in our educational system today. We don't inculcate leadership development at all. It's just the cognitive development, and our cognitive development mantra is still based on, issues. It's still certificate driven, not empowerment driven. Very, very important for us to develop a new, template for leadership development in Nigeria. Then number 4, I will give attention to the leadership recruitment process for leadership. And in a Nigeria where the recruitment process for leadership is based on ethnicity, is based on tribalism, is based on quota system, where we are not basically looking at capacity and value, it's an eyesore. So we'll look at the recruitment process of leadership in Nigeria. And then the final thing I'm going to give attention to in the next 20 years is actually strong institutions that will check leadership. Because where there are no strong institutions, you have strong leaders. And strong leaders actually can never take a nation anywhere. Nations must be built on institutional frameworks that are able to check excesses and put leadership on their toes to be able to fulfill their social contract even to the electorate. So those are the 5 things that I will give attention to in 20 years if I am president.
All right. I just want to believe that some of our politicians are watching this broadcast. If they are not, if you're watching, please do share this and make it go viral so they can also listen in, because this is part of a conversation that should be, going on within the corridors of power as well. Let's go on to the thematic area of economy, the economy. And I will go back, I will go to Dr. Ohamen at this point. What are the critical quick fixes you would want us to use as a model to fix Nigeria's economy? If you were president of the country, what would you specifically throw out the window from what we have currently within the economic space? Because, as it were, it does appear as if none of the solutions are working. It is also possible that the solutions are not fit for our specific challenges.
Yeah, one of the first areas that I would love to bring change is this federal quota system of everyone coming to Abuja to pick up a pay slip, for the different states. I think what we need to encourage is more of the originality of our states and the kind of revenue generation that each state could really look into. This federal system is not really helping us. We just have that mentality of picking an allocation every month, and that is one key area I think we need to look inwards, because I personally believe that the gold mines of a nation is not so much as just the natural resources, but the mental capacity of the people, and you need to have an environment that encourages people to think, to look inwards, to look around them, to look at the environment where you belong, and discover those valuable assets that could actually lead to economic revolution. The system we have today kind of does not encourage much of us looking at our ingenuity and bringing out those areas from the different states where we could actually thrive on peculiarities. So I think that's one key area that we need a reform in the aspect of our economy. Yeah.
All right. Reverend Dave, give us an economic blueprint that can sort us out in, say, 4 years. And then the sustainable capacity that we can develop so that we become one of the top economies of the world in, say, 20 years. What are the quick fixes? What are the blueprints, the basic blueprint you can put in place for the erecting of a strong economic pillar for the country?
Fundamentally, if you talk about the economy of a nation, it is a sum total of production, consumption, savings, and investment, and how the policies in this area actually affects the well-being of the people. That's the fundamental aspect we need to understand, because when you talk about the economy, a lot of the people watching don't understand what the economy is. So we need to break it down to the level they can understand. The production, the consumption, savings, and investments, and the impact of the policies in this area on the well-being of the people. I want to say, for the Nigerian economy as it is right now, there are no quick fixes. It is like trying to pump steroids to a man who is on life support. You will actually kill him. The Nigerian economy is on life support right now. We cannot pump steroids to it to just, jack it up. You can have a standing economy and not necessarily a living economy. So if we try some quick fixes now, it will enable us to have a standing economy that is actually dead while it is standing. If you look at indices of the economy of Nigeria, number one, you discover that we're an import-based economy with very, very little production. As at 2021, our GDP stands at 448.12 billion US dollar, and our per capita is 2,097, billion US dollars. But when you compare that to a nation like Ghana that has just 30 million human beings there, Ghana has a per capita of 2,328, higher than Nigeria. South Africa has a per capita of 5,090 US dollars, far, far higher than Nigeria. And South Africa has a population of 55 billion people. How can 55 million people be having a per capita of 5,000 US dollars and 206 million people have a per capita of just 2,097 US dollars? So that's the situation of our economy. We have our currency at all-time low in terms of value, vis-a-vis the dollar. 580 naira is exchanging for $1 as at the market yesterday. Inflation is at an all-time high of 17.38 as far as the consumer price index, is concerned. And our foreign debt is at an all-time high of 32.9 billion US dollars per day. So those are symptoms of an economy that is on life support. It took Lee Kuan Yew 30 years of consistent input, uninterrupted input, no military rule, from 1965 to 1995 to make Singapore, a first world nation from a third world nation. But I believe too that if we have the right kind of leadership in place, the next 20 years we can redig our foundation and be able to jumpstart our economy. Then we'll begin with number one, freeing ourselves from the clutches of foreign powers who hold our economy. From the IMF to the Millennium Development Goals, to the Strategic Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals, those are all economic blueprints drawn for us by outsiders who control our economy. These are not homegrown organic economic policies. Therefore, if they are not organic, then our system generally cannot conform to it. When you have a kidney transplant, your system does not recognize it as part of the body, so it fights it. That's why people who have kidney transplant, usually don't live very, very long, because it is not organic. So what we have today is a transplant of economic policies from foreign bodies that are not organic or compatible to us. So the first thing I will do to jumpstart our economy in the next 20 years is actually to forcefully, I know there are consequences to it, forcefully wean ourselves or divorce ourselves from the foreign economic policies and draw some homegrown organic economic policies that are compatible to our history, our culture, and our endowments. That will be the beginning point, because as it is right now, our independence for 51 years has not helped us to drive to a place of economic freedom. We are still tied to the apron strings of the West. That's why we rush for them to borrow, we rush to them to deposit our resources and so on. But if we divorce ourselves from there and look inward, we'll be able to jumpstart, our economy that is on life support. So that's the first thing I will do. Win or divorce ourselves from foreign economic chokeholds, and then be able to look inward and draw homegrown, compatible, organic economic policies that we can run safely on.
All right, thank you so much, Reverend Dave. I'll go back to Abuja, where Dr. Emmanuel Oamen is us from. Doctor, our governments at every level are obsessed with infrastructural development, much more than people or human capacity development. Our human capital is very low in terms of capacity. There are millions of Nigerians, maybe more than half of our population are not literate. This is a huge burden on governance itself, generally. As a leader of Nigeria, how can you change this tide within 8 years? What would you begin to do to be able to change the educational standard of Nigeria that we can rely on and say, okay, the future of Nigeria is secure?
Yeah, I think the real issues need to really be looked at in Nigeria. And one of the issues is this style of leadership. You know, you just said in 8 years, is 8 years guaranteed? Do you have a guaranteed 8 years to lead? You know, we have a democratic structure where you have just 4 years for a term. And I think that's one of our major problems. You know, to really solve the problems of Nigeria, we need fundamental issues that will allow for these, you know, these risk or
Okay, it does appear as if we're having a network challenge from
if
Dr.
you ask
Emmanuel.
me,
Okay.
if you ask me, we have a leadership structure issue that is fundamental. We are trying to practice system that does not look realistic for where we are based on our complexities. Like I said, we need to really restructure. We need homegrown, looking inwards in our leadership style and structure to come up with a format where you can actually have a most of our quick fixes that can happen in 4 years. It's almost
Okay.
hello.
We're having a lot of network glitch from Abuja.
Yeah. So I think fundamentally we need to restructure. We need, you know, indigenous leadership to come together and form a pattern that can actually, you know, effect a change. We have a lot of good ideas. We have a lot of good ideas and a lot of good plans, but are they realistic? Can they be followed through in this system that we're running today, where you have a 4 year term and in 4 years, you know, you want to do so much? I think that's a fundamental issue that we're having. It's not enough for us to just have good, you know, ideas and good talk. How can these things really follow through? How can we apply them? And I believe that the fundamental issue, like I said earlier, is to look at this leadership style, this structure, this democracy of 4 years, and what we have on ground. To me, it's not being realistic. We really need, you know, we had a confab earlier on, and it's so painful that we have not been able to look into what they were able to come up with in our leadership structure because we need to call it to governance. We're diverse cultures, they be diverse that much. So, you know, I wish I could speak more on us looking at our peculiarities as an African nation and come up with an African solution for our leadership. It might not be this democracy of 4 years, and you know, you might need to look inwards more. Like most of the countries we're talking about today. Look at Dubai. Look at even the nation that we mentioned earlier. They had
Singapore.
leadership yeah, Singapore that lasted for so long, 20-year leadership. So they could actually drive a vision and a plan. So when you have a plan and a vision where you have no time to follow through, it's a major issue. So this person comes in, he tries to do later, before we know what's happening, another 4 years out, somebody else, another party comes in, and you know, there's a stall on all the projects, you know, that we had previously, and you know, the plan. So that is to me one of the most fundamental issues that we have. And until we can get that right, most of all these fixes and plans that we have, we cannot execute them. So what is the good of an execution plan that cannot be executed? You understand? So I think we need to
Yeah.
really be, you know, realistic about where we are and our true issues and look inwards and provide a different style of leadership. what's working for America in the US of A. It's not what's going to work for Nigeria. They don't have the complexities and the diversity that we have. And at the end of the day, we still have our people that go to study, they study out there and try to bring in those same leadership styles that will not work here in Nigeria or Africa. So I think the approach is more looking inwards and seeing our peculiarities and devising a structure that, if implemented, can fly, can see the light of the day. If not, all these beautiful talk and beautiful plans don't, there is no execution plan at the end of the day. So I think that's our fundamental problem. So allow me to,
I think what Reverend Dave, what the perspective that Dr. Emmanuel has brought into the discussion has made our different thematic issues look like, okay, are we dealing with symptoms instead of dealing with the real disease? Because it does appear as if the real disease is the fact that we do not have a structure to build on. Somebody comes in, he starts his own plan. As long as I have been, politically conscious, and from the time I started understanding what politics is about, I found out that every government has an agricultural policy with a tagline: Green Revolution, Operation Feed the Nation. And then every successive government abandons the policies of the past. And how does it work in other climes? Let's not even look at the Asian tigers. Let's look at the democracies that have got tenured leadership. France, for instance, 8 years, they are done. UK, sometimes you have a prime minister for 2 years. But the central vision for the country keeps running. Barack Obama talked about the fact he didn't start the Afghanistan war. It was started by his predecessor, George Bush. But he continued with the policy of trying to track down Osama bin Laden. Eventually, he got him. And then started talking about withdrawal. Donald Trump talked about withdrawing. Biden came and did the withdrawal. No matter how chaotic it is, but it's a continuation of the American policy. So, Reverend Dave, what would you want to say? Dr. Emmanuel was talking about our own structure of leadership. Is it about the structure or the people who will run the structure?
You see, we have. It's a good digression from the subject matter you question. The question is education. Education. So if I may just reroute us back to the subject matter so that we can be able to find better direction.
I will still come to you. There's a question, your own question on education. I just wanted you to speak on the issue he raised.
You see, I made a submission earlier that our leadership structure and systems are not the problem. They are like standing vehicles. They take on the characteristic of the drivers per time. The vehicles don't have emotions in themselves. It is the emotion of the driver now that determines its direction, whether it crashes or it does not crash. So fundamentally, I agree with him, like I stated earlier, that we have a leadership problem in terms of content and capacity. So I said earlier that we're a nation of accidental leadership where there's no deliberate, pursuit in terms of the quality of leadership that we will have to drive this very great nation, Nigeria. That's why the giant of Africa has become the dwarf of Africa today, like we're, mentioning. So I agree with him that basically we have issues not of structure, but of drivers, of these structures of leadership.
All right. I think that's a good way to end that discussion. It's something we might have to address much more in subsequent conversations. But let's go back to the subject of education. And your question, Reverend Dave, is Nigeria's rating in education is very low in the world. In Africa, we are far behind in terms of standards. Our graduates are like glorified high school students. How can we change this narrative? Through deliberate governance policies in the education sector. What should government and institutions responsible for the education of a nation begin to do in short, medium, and long-term basis?
Okay, basically, our educational system in Nigeria has been suffering from foundational issues. We are trying to build on very, very shaky substructures, that are not strong enough to be able to hold the modern demands of educating our citizenry. The model and approach and curriculum of education introduced to us by the Britons actually was to bring us to a level where we could just read and write and be able to support their administrative processes. It was not education for empowerment at all. That must be established. It was not education for empowerment at all. And when we took over the reins of governance in 1960, what we should have done first of all, like me and Oamen were emphasizing earlier, is to look inward and rejig and redig our foundations, and then to put structures that are compatible to us, so that we can be able to drive our, economy, our educational sector ourselves. Number one, our education is one that lacks the elements of critical thinking, innovation, and solution. So it is not enough to meet the emerging global challenges that we are facing today. It's not a problem-solving education at all. It's just, a subsistent, managing level of education. Can I shock you with this statistic, sir? Effective January 2021, talking about this year, the opening of this year, 5 giant companies in America, they came out with a policy that they will not be requiring university degrees for hiring any longer. Those companies are, Google, Tesla, Apple, Amazon, Netflix. 5 giant companies in America. And the moment they took this decision, other companies began to follow suit. So in other words, in the next 10 years, university degree will be useless, practically useless. They are not requiring it for hiring again. What are they requiring? They call it in-demand skills. In-demand skills. And Google has jobs. Google has opened up to raise relevant skills, actually, things that are relevant to the economy. It's not find X when X has not been able to find you. It's not labeling a tree when you don't know the chemical properties of the tree. You understand? It's not labeling a skeleton and then we get hungry and become like the skeleton. No, it's not that. Those are not relevant education at all. So these 5 companies, they are setting a pace for the world to follow. So that is a warning, because the falling of the yellow leaf is a warning to the green one, that if you don't hold on to the tree, you will fall likewise. So it's important now, taking these signals, to begin to remodel or revisit our education, such that our education can emphasize empowerment rather than employment. It can emphasize satisfaction rather than certificates. Those are the things we should do. And these are my suggestions. Number one, for us to revisit our models and approaches in terms of the content. The syllabus that is being taught in universities today is 35 years old. Our professors, went through that same syllabus. It's the same mold that they are passing people through. And the issues of the world are changing from one year to the other. How can we stay on the same syllabus and expect to solve global, emerging global trends or issues or challenges? We must revisit our models, our approaches, and the content of the education. And number two, we must begin to emphasize value education. It's something that is lacking in our syllabus and in our curriculum. Value education. Everybody behaves anyhow. There are no set values that everybody should imbibe that will enable them to become, productive citizens who are contributing to the nation. Value education is absent. Then number three, skill education. Skill education. Nowadays, there should be a major and deliberate shift from certificate to certificate. Certificate is talking about your skills, what you can do, what is peculiar to your talents and your endowments on your inside, what is natural to you. So you should school in that direction and be able to amplify. So school should just be a mere amplifier of our endowments. That means school should be able to look at every child and see what the endowment of the child is and be able to guide the child towards amplifying such endowments. And then we must fast track our digital ecosystem in Nigeria to be able to catch up with the trend of education that the world is going on today. For instance, if the COVID team, had the anticipated impact on Africa or on Nigeria, people dying, dead bodies on the street, and so on, that would have marked the end of education in Nigeria, because we don't have the digital ecosystem to be able to create, that kind of digital learning system where the people in the West today, education was continuing despite the COVID-19, but not in Nigeria here. Everybody went back home. So we must fast track our digital ecosystem, and then we must look at innovation education, because as it is right now, it's not the era of certificate any longer. It's not even the era of entrepreneurship per se. It is innovative entrepreneurship, where you are able to bring products, innovations, ideas, systems, services that solve a problem practically. Those are the kind of things we should be emphasizing today. So that is what I will set as an agenda for Nigeria, by way of talking hope now.
Yes. You're watching Setting a Hope Agenda for Nigeria, and you're on to GovNet TV. My name is Godwin Obuche. My guests today are the exceptional Reverend Dave Obole and Dr. Emmanuel Ouamen. We have been looking at hope agendas in 4 thematic areas. We have looked at the governance issue, we have looked at education, we have touched on the economy. We want to look at the last one, which is health. If you want to check the economy of any nation and how healthy it is, then you have to look at the physical health of the individuals who make up the country. If you have a sick nation, or you have a situation where the health infrastructure does not have the capacity to be able to take care of the people, then of course you shouldn't expect the best from that country. And I will start with you, Dr. Ouamen. We have more or less a situation where even our president does not believe in our health system. I know currently that a lot of doctors are, leaving the country. So can you think of a blueprint for revamping our health sector? What can we do to begin to change the tide as a leader of today's Nigeria, responsible for fixing the country? How would you handle the health economy of our nation?
First of all, I think to a large extent, beyond just as a nation, Nigeria, I have an African approach. I think we need to beef up on our self-reliance. I think we need to beef up on we need to believe in ourselves more. We need to believe in the part of the world that we find ourselves, and we need to believe that the solution of our problems are inherent, are right from within us. Because if you look at, the Africa as, a continent, we have a lot of health solutions. That I'm even seeing that in the near future, a lot of friends from the diaspora will be coming into Africa for, health solutions. We need to believe in ourselves. We are not believing ourselves enough to explore the God-given, solutions that we have. That's one of the reasons why you find a government that has more trust in traveling out to solve health, issues. If we believe in ourselves more, we'll invest in ourselves, and there will be a lot of self-discoveries. I might not have the all the educational approach, but I have an understanding. I have an understanding of looking inwards and believing in the fact that, for every problem, the solution is right around that space.
Mm.
Of course, most of us are pastors here. There's no way we can run out of the wisdom.
All right, the network from Abuja is also shifty again. We've been getting a lot of comments from our viewers, a whole lot. And we've been sharing them on screen.
You know, every time.
Yes, audio issues.
Yes.
Audio.
Dr. Wamen, can you hear me? Can you
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear
your
you.
audio went off for you. We can hear you now. Just land your thoughts. Your
Okay.
audio went off
So
for a
what?
while.
So my point is, African health solution. We should invest more in it. We have a lot of plants. We have a lot of natural endowments in the area of health that we need to explore. You know, we should stop this dependence on, foreign, health solutions. That's what I think. I think we need to look. I think that if we explore more of our ingrown, solutions, and we invest more in our health by way of producing more, you know, medicines and drugs and things like that. I think if we look inwards, we'll have a better output than, that mentality
Okay.
of always importing. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, and most of the drugs that we have, the Western drug or the conventional drugs, are actually from herbs. It's just that we
From
don't
here,
have the capacity to be able to, yes, to convert those herbs into, conventional medicine. Reverend Dave, Nigeria used to serve as a destination for medical tourism in the 1960s into the 1970s. It was reported of how the Saudi Arabia king used to travel to UCH in Ibadan to get treated. Today, the reverse is the case. Like I was asking Reverend Wamen, our president does not even use the Aso Rock Clinic, for which billions are budgeted for annually. He flies abroad for medical checkup. Same for many government officials and individuals today. Today, our doctors and nurses are leaving the country in droves, and we have more people ratio, more people ratio to one doctor today than we ever had in Nigeria. What went wrong with our health system, and how can we fix it?
Okay, thank you very much for that very important question. To put the statistics in place, within the last 1 month only, 350,000 doctors have been employed outside of this country. So that's massive capacity drain. And the Minister of Labor, Ngige, said it is a good development because they will bring back, they will send back money to Nigeria. I think that's one of the most stupid responses I've seen from a Nigerian leader. A sure sign that old age and gray hair is not equal to wisdom. You are losing valuable people, and that's all you can say to it. I think we, the younger generation, we demand an apology for that. That is not speaking well for the Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria that we desire to see in our own lifetime. So that's that. Our life expectancy is 58.7 years now. Meaning anybody who has lived up to 58. 2 years back, it was 48. I don't know what increased it, to 58. Those are the current, statistics.
Maybe our capacity for resilience.
I think it's our resilience, because a lot, if not the accidents on the bad roads, the insurgency on one side, banditry on the other side, all those matters are combining with the poor health sector, to reduce the life expectancy of the Nigerian person. Fundamentally, our health sector or health system is still at the primary health level. There are no secondary or tertiary. So it's difficult to do referrals, of cases, if we are not able to manage them in our federal medical centers and our general hospitals. That's primary health care. So what should Nigeria do? The first thing we should do is to embark on a massive health education. And this should be the focus of the health education. Thomas Edison said, the doctor of the future will not prescribe drug, he will prescribe good diet. Socrates said, let thy food be thy medicine. Ignorance in Africa, ignorance in Nigeria is hindering us from tapping into the health advantages that surround us. We are one of the most organic continents in the world today. I'm talking about Africa. If you have been to Europe before and the Americas, you will see that a man of our age has not seen a live chicken. He has not seen a live goat except in movies. Everything comes to them processed, nothing organic. Even their corn is processed and canned with preservatives. Everything comes to them processed and chemicalized. But for us in Africa, you can still go to the back of your house, cut vegetables, cut okra. But we've been brainwashed to think that those things are poor people's food. Whereas those vegetables and fruits that are abundant in Africa are actually the bedrock of sound health and longevity. So we must embark on a health education first of all, to let our people know that whatever the European or the white man has talked down, has looked down, and made us to look down on it so we can prefer their medicine is actually what will promote our health and longevity. Fruits and vegetables, they are natural health remedies that are compatible with our body. You know why the tree needs to stick to the ground? The tree needs to stick to the ground, not necessarily because it gets its nutrient from the earth. It's because it comes from the earth. The earth is its raw material, so it needs to stick to its source. So our bodies stem from the earth too. So anything that is earthly and natural is the same source with us. Therefore, it can be the spare part that can replace our body. So if we emphasize that health education where our food becomes our medicine, then I think Africans will have longer lifespan. There is no known cure for cancer. It's just to be managed by chemotherapy or radiation, which is killing the cells forcefully to kill the cancer cells. But it has been proven that eating organically will help, the cancer cells to regress and to even die off. So why are we spending our money going out there to treat cancer when our diets that are organic in Africa can actually kill those cancer cells? Africa, we're taking cancer cells every single day from radiation, from the foods we eat. But because of our organic nature of eating, our resilience, our immune system are tough and strong. That's why COVID couldn't survive around here. The last time I checked, we have 433 new cases with 2 deaths only. Go to the West and see what COVID is doing to them. Our immunity here is very strong because of our closeness to the earth and how we eat organically. So let our food be our medicine, and only health education can do that. And then finally, we must have a deliberate health policy where the 3 elements of a good healthcare system will be in place. And what are those 3 elements? Number 1, it must be available. Number 2, it must be accessible. And number 3, it must be affordable. These are the 3 elements of a good healthcare system: availability, accessibility, and affordability. These 3 things, if they're in place, I think our healthcare system, even at primary level, will be able to deal with issues ourselves.
Wow, this has been a massive body of knowledge that we have, taking in today. If you're just joining us, you have missed a lot. But of course, you can go back to the videos on YouTube and on our platform on Facebook, and then play back the video. It's always going to be there. And so I'd like to thank our guest. There's going to be 1 minute each for our guests to be able to give their final thoughts and to inspire hope in Nigeria. So let me go first to Dr. Emmanuel Ohamen in Abuja. What's your final thoughts? And as we mark 61 years as an independent nation, in spite of all the challenges that we're confronted with, What's your agenda of hope?
Okay, my sincere strategy, I think to a large extent, we need to slow down as a country. Those days when Nigeria was doing well in football, let me just take a cue from that. They had a way of, the Europeans play very fast football. I'm not such a football fan, but, I know that. For the Nigerians to beat them, they will slow them down and change the tactics. I think that we need to slow down in our reasoning. We need to take a step backward and relook at who we are. We have lost our identity. That's our major issue. It's not so much as a wrong analysis. I think we're having an identity crisis in this part of the world. I think we need to slow down and look at ourselves now and really see that we have.
Okay, we're having a network challenge from Abuja again. Let me go over to you, Reverend Dave. What are your final thoughts? How may we inspire hope in Nigeria in spite of the challenges that we face today?
I have a different way of looking at the challenges we face today, from insecurity, near collapse of our economy, absence of viable health structure, and so no matter the problems, I see these problems as the birth pangs that a woman in labor must experience for her to be able to give birth to a new baby. So I see this as the birth pangs because a new Nigeria is about to be born. That's why we are suffering the pains that we are suffering. And the fact that we are raising this consciousness today, we're not the only people who are feeling the way we are feeling right now. We're simply the ones being privileged to articulate them on, global platforms like you have given us today, Godwin Oguche. So there is this consciousness spreading all over Nigeria. And I believe, like I said earlier, that after this birth pang, a new Nigeria is going to be born. A woman that is in labor, she has two options. She either pushes the baby out, or if she refuses to push, both her and the baby will die. We're at that junction right now. And the only thing we must do is to believe against hope, believe in hope, and be able to push the baby of your new Nigeria out, despite the pains that we feel. And there's something about the joy of motherhood that comes immediately you see your baby. All of the pains of labor will disappear if you ask a woman. So the pains of all of these pangs will disappear the moment we're able to persist and to push a new Nigeria out. I say there is hope. We're tempted to compare ourselves with America today. But let me shock you. America is 245 years from their independence in 1776. 245 years versus 61 years. And when they were 61 years, they were still called the Wild Wild West. Anybody can go kill anybody and go scot-free. And if a stronger man than him pursues him on horseback and kills him, yes, vengeance is served. So they were just the Wild West. They were not as developed as us. They were not thinking critically like we're thinking right now. It's just that vis-a-vis our potential, we're not where we're supposed to be. But I must say, we're not where we used to be. We have some developmental strides that we have achieved in the last 61 years. And there is hope for us at 61, that before we get to 245 like America, would have been able to do away with this crop of leadership that is setting us back 60, 70 years back, and be able to have new sets of leadership, come to play, that are content capacity driven, not ethnicity driven, and then we'll be able to, realize our potential as a nation. I believe, on a final note, that if there can be a New Delhi, if there can be a New York, if there can be a New Jerusalem, there also can be a new Nigeria. It is possible. And we are the answers. We are the solution. We are the password to that new Nigeria.
Yes, it is possible. Yes, we can. It's been a beautiful evening, and I'd like to thank our guests. First of all, Dr. Emmanuel Oamen. He's the head post-training empowerment unit of the Presidential Amnesty Program. He is also the lead pastor of a Worship City Church where he's building a takeover generation. I think I'd like to worship with you next time I'm in Abuja, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you
Me,
for
Very well.
coming on Gomnet TV.
me
Oh,
too.
Reverend Dave. All right. And all the way from Makodi, the Benue State capital, where I grew up, we have my childhood friend and brother, my elder one. Reverend Dave Ubola is the principal special assistant to the governor of Benue State on strategic investment and knowledge economy. He is also the senior pastor of the True Life Impact Church, Makodi, Benue State. Thank you so much for being on Gomnet TV tonight.
Thank you very much, Gordon Oguche, for having me.
All right. This is where we want to draw the curtain on the program tonight. It is also the end of a series of Nigeria at 61, where we have talked about setting a hope agenda. The hope agenda is not tied to the 3 series of discussions on Gomnet TV. We will take the things that we have learned, the body of knowledge that we have received, and go out there to implement. Yesterday, I was talking to a set of young people at a learning annex in Kano, and I was speaking to them about getting involved in the political process. I remember Reverend Dave has always been hounding me to come and be involved in the political process in Benue State. I'm still marking my time. I don't think I'm cut out for politics. I think I'm a policy maker from the background. But how many of us who are screaming on social media actually have a voter's card? In the last election, over 80 million Nigerians were registered to vote. At the end of the day, only 27 million votes were cast. So what happened to the 52 or 53 million that didn't go out? Because it was a work-free day, people were playing soccer on empty roads, and others were watching analysis on TV, and our destinies were being decided at the polls, and we're all at home saying votes don't count. If votes don't count, then the politicians will be going out to campaign. Politics is about numbers. If 100,000 young people invade a political party in a state, they take it over. But are we ready? We just are more interested in criticizing the government in power and not willing to get involved in the process. Nothing changes by agitation alone. People who make change happen get involved in the process. So Nigerians and Nigerian youths, I plead with you, get involved in the process. Another election cycle is by the corner. Please get involved. If you cannot join a political party as a card-carrying member, please get a voter's card, so that we don't have a situation where we have to choose between 2 devils. That's my take on Gomnet TV and on this subject matter. Once again, thank you to our guest, and thank you for joining us. God bless you. Have a lovely night and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
So we are on Facebook. Arinyasa,
Are we off Facebook now?
I think so. I think we're off Facebook. I've just signed off.
Okay. So I know it's been a wonderful time.